Hello, everyone, and welcome to Exorcist Club. Father Dan here. Father Dan for Exorcist Club. Oh, we've got an echo. I want to start this whole thing with a prayer. All right, I'm going to teach you guys. We're going to talk about the Lord's Prayer for a moment. Since we're talking about demonic entities and we're getting into these ideas, I wanted to bless this mess that we got going on here. And the Lord's Prayer is one of the most effective banishing rituals you can do, okay? You can do. So we're going to bless our mess today. Before we get into the Lord's Prayer, I just want to read you this little tidbit out of the Practical Guide to Kabbalistic Symbolism by Gareth Knight. He had a lot to say about this. I thought this was great. It is unfortunate that approximately 2,000 years of human misrepresentation have jaded the religious perceptive faculties of many people so that they have little time for the Christian religion. The Christ force, nevertheless, is the most potent in the whole battery of occultism. To consider things in a purely technical sense, as has been recognized in the popular tradition, that the sign of the cross and the invocation of the name of Christ will banish all demons. This is literally true as it happens. Once we divorce it from its melodramatic context, few are likely to meet hobgoblins or horned devils in haunted houses at midnight, but all have devils or demons within themselves. I'm looking at you, okay? The errors or sins that cause them so much unhappiness, all right? Guess what? You want to know who's responsible for all the shit in your life? Go look in a mirror, all right? It's you, all right? Spoilers, it's you. It's you. You're the one fucking up your life. So, if it is possible to overcome the automatic revulsion that tragically many have from Christianity due usually to faulty presentation in childhood and after, and to call upon the Christ for help, help will certainly be received. The test of the truth of this statement is quite simple. One only has to try it. The only proviso that obtains to the use of the Christ force is that the heart must be willing to accept it. It is not a contact that has much to do with the rational mind, but it should cause the heart to burn within. Also, it is a contact of divine love, so that fear, hatred, suspicion, or mental analysis can prevent its work upon the soul. Nor, on the other hand, should any feel too unworthy to try to contact it, as it is openly taught in the churches. Christ came to save sinners, and there are many parables which also teach this, from the prodigal son to the lost sheep. All right, that's right. So this is from a great occultist, Gareth Knight. I mean, he's saying, hey, don't be afraid to call upon the Christ force. That guy's cool, all right? I know he's been misrepresented to you. I know that you went to church and it sucked, and there's hypocrites there. I get it. But Christ is there for you, all right? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You got to separate the wheat from the chaff, okay? There's great things you can get from this fucking force. So don't be afraid to call that into your lives, especially if you're feeling any darkness, all right? Any darkness. So, all right, so are we ready? We ready to bless this mess? Are we ready to start with some prayer before we get into speaking about demonic entities? We ready? I want to see it in the chat. I want to see y'all bless this mess. I need to see it. I need to feel it. I need to feel that you're ready. Tell me you're ready. Let's see it. Okay, you're starting to. Not quick enough. Okay, quicker. All right. Okay. Yes, bless this mess. That's right, kids. That's right. Choo-choo, we're on this fucking hype train. Now, many of you may or may not be familiar with this. Hopefully, by the end of this class, you will be familiar with the Lord's Prayer. And after we do the prayer, we are going to talk about it for a moment before we get into the book, okay? I want to break it down for you, because you probably never thought about it. You probably never stopped to think about it. That's the problem with everybody. We don't stop to think about things, you know? So we're going to get into it. Here we go. Everyone, I need you to close your eyes I need you to bow your heads. I need you to put your little hands together. Okay, if you feel it. I need you to close your eyes. Here we go. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, now and forever. Amen. Amen. All right, guys, we did it. We banished the darkness. We got the Lord's Prayer. We did it. I feel great about it. I feel great about it. Amen. Yes, I want to see those amens in the chat, please. I need to see an amen. We're going to talk about what that fucking means in just a second. You probably never looked into it. You've just been saying it. Or judging it without even knowing what the fuck is going on. So, okay. So I was looking into it. I found this really great article online by Scott Osterhage. He's a theosophy guy. He's of the theosophical bent. And he had a thing titled The Lord's Prayer, an Esoteric Interpretation. And first of all, I just want to say that this Christian prayer is taken from an earlier Judaic prayer that's very, very similar. I'm just going to go through this real quick. We're not actually praying right now. I'm just telling you what the original one was so that, you just know for your reference. The original one is translated as, Our Father which art in heaven, be gracious to us, O Lord our God. Hallowed be thy name, and let the remembrance of thee be glorified in heaven above and upon earth here below. Let thy kingdom reign over us now and forever. Thy holy men of old said, Remit and forgive unto all men whatsoever they have done against me, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil thing. For thine is the kingdom, and thou shalt reign in glory forever and forevermore. That's the deal. All right. This is from Manly P. Hall in his book, The Mystical Christ. I need to pick that one up. I love Manly P. Hall. He's a great writer about all things occult. So, all right. All right, so let's just break it down for just a moment. So when we start this prayer, we say, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. So essentially what we're doing is we are speaking to the God within our consciousness. All right, everything in this universe is God, all of it. God's everything. God's everywhere. God is us. God's everything. God's this computer. It's this laptop. It's you. It's me. It's this mic. It's everything. Okay, it's beans. It's all of it. So we're trying to hone in on that sacred part of ourselves. We're trying to make sacred space for this divine part of ourselves to come through. So Our Father who art in heaven, speaking to the God within our consciousness, hallowed be thy name. We're calling the lower to attention. We've got a lower self and a higher self. We're going to call that lower self to attention by relegating reverence to the higher self. And essentially this is an invocation of the solar deity as well. So we start, Thy kingdom come. That's God's kingdom, which is already within us. All right, it's already within us. We think it's not here. We're trying to get there. We're already there. That's the big joke. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. This is interesting because it very much reflects the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, on earth as it is in heaven, which is all about raising the material. We're in the material world. We're trying to raise this up to the spiritual while also calling down the spiritual into the material world. Father Marin thinks about this later in the prologue. And also, I thought this was interesting. This was part of Scott's blog post here. He quotes Catherine Tingley, who taught, None can grow in the truest sense spiritually unless he has suffered till his mind and heart are attuned to the heartache of the world. Interesting. He goes on to say, by this suffering, a sacrifice which is a sacred offering, we sublimate our animal self to the higher principles which divinity lives, moves, and has its being. Thereby, we transmute suffering into service for all. The will for spiritual betterment is often overridden by the lower self in order to fulfill the base desires and instincts which bind us to the material aspects of the world. This verse reminds us to leave the channel open to our higher self and let our conscience and intuition guide us in making choices and in carrying out our daily tasks. We will know it by its altruism and selflessness, just as we know the vines by its fruits. All right. Moving on, give us this day our daily bread. This is a reminder to receive spiritual sustenance on the daily instead of just one, or as a lot of you, 0 days a week. 0 days a week. The Christians, some of them just do it on Sundays. That's it. They seek the spiritual sustenance 1 day a week. You need to do this every day. You need to nourish your soul just as you feed your body every day. You need to feed your soul with spiritual sustenance. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. This is kind of an inverse of the golden rule. If you don't know what that is, a shame. But if you don't know what that is, it's do unto others that which you would have them do unto you. So when we release ourselves from the burden of carrying hate around in our hearts, and we can do this by remembering the times that we too have sinned against others. You know, none of us are perfect. You know, let ye who has not sinned cast the first fucking stone. And guess what? We're all a bunch of disgusting sinners. All right. It's fucking gross. And I do this all the time. I think to myself, there's friends of mine that are doing shit that I'm like, that's not right. I don't like that. I don't like what you're doing right there. But then I stop myself and I take some time. I take a little time out and I think about, how have I done this exact same thing? How am I doing this exact same thing right now? And generally, the things that I'm triggered by are indeed things that I'm currently engaged in. And so then I decide to shut the fuck up. I leave them alone. And then I just work on this problem within myself. So I want to encourage you guys to do that as well. You need to find compassion and forgiveness. Okay, we got to find that. We got to find it within ourselves, because once we stop clinging to these petty grievances that we have, we will have free energy to do so many more amazing things. Amazing things. Once you just let that shit go. It's hard. It's hard, I know. Is it trespassers or debtors, asks a cow named Stan. It's either one. Some translations say, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. There are other translations which say, forgive us our debts as we forgive those who are indebted to us. You know, it's the same idea. It's the same idea. Forgive us our sins. It's also, I grew up in the Methodist Church. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. That's also another one. So then we go on to lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. This is a call for us to see through illusion, the veil of Maya. If you don't know about all the Maya stuff, we're going to have to get into that another time. Or the pull of the material world, okay? The pull of the material world. We think that we're very materialist in our society. We think, oh, this is all there is. This is all there is. No, we're spirits crystallized in matter. We're at the ass end of the tree of life. Okay, we're at the very bottom where everything crystallizes into matter. The rest of the higher spheres are spiritual spheres. Okay, and we mistake this material sphere for the only one. This is the reality, when the other ones, that's the real shit. That's the real shit. So we end with, for thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, now and forever. So this is our final affirmation of divinity. And there is another interesting way to put it. Somebody also has this thing. For of thee are the realms and the energies and the radiances throughout the life cycles, eternally and forever. I like that. That's a great way to put it. For of thee are the realms and the energies and the radiances throughout the life cycles, eternally and forever. That's pretty pimpin'. Amen. We start with, we end with Amen. This is also akin to Om in the Eastern traditions. There's Om. Amen is very similar. Amen means a lot of different things. It can be translated in a lot of different ways. It can mean verily, truly, so be it, confirmed, faithful, to believe, trust. And also, some of those of the Theosophical Society believe that Amen is also related to Amun, who is the creator solar deity in the Egyptian pantheon, the ancient Egyptian pantheon. And his name also means the hidden one. So, Amen. That's what it means. All right. It's an affirmation of faith. All right. So, we're getting into that. Okay, great. So so far we've covered the Lord's Prayer. I feel great about it. Next up, let's start getting into the book. So for this book, fuck you. Okay, we got it back. We're gonna need to read the 40th anniversary edition of The Exorcist. All right, we're gonna read this one. So here we go. Now, before we get into the prologue, there are a couple of pages that I found really interesting. The first thing written in this book is Mark 5:9. And as Jesus stepped ashore, there met him a man from the city who was possessed by demons. Many times they laid hold of him, and he was bound with chains, but he would break the bonds asunder. And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" And he answered, "Legion, for we are many." So William Peter Blatty, our writer, he's kicking this thing off with letting you know that in the Bible, Jesus is an exorcist. All right, there is a story in Mark of him meeting a man. I'd like to just read out of the good book for you. Let's just read the whole story real quick before we get into this. And William Peter Blatty is a Christian. Okay, he's not a man who's just capitalizing off of this. He truly believes. He went to Georgetown University, which is featured in this book. And I believe if in another life he would have been a Jesuit priest. He loves the fucking Jesuits. He's real into it. So let's go to Mark. Let's go to the book of Mark here. Let's read chapter 5. We're gonna read about Jesus exorcising a demon here. Okay. They came to the other side of the sea, to the region of the Gerasenes. As soon as he got out of the boat, a man with an unclean spirit came out of the tombs and met him. He lived in the tombs, and no one was able to restrain him anymore, not even with a chain, because he often had been bound with shackles and chains, but had torn the chains apart and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and knelt down before him, and he cried out with a loud voice, "What do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you before God, don't torment me." For he had told him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." "What is your name?" he asked him. "My name is Legion," he answered him, "because we are many." And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the region. A large herd of pigs was there, feeding on the hillside. The demons begged him, "Send us to the pigs so that we may enter them." So he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs. The herd of about 2,000 rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned there. The men who tended them ran off and reported it in the town and the countryside, and people went to see what had happened. They came to Jesus and saw the man who had been demon-possessed sitting there, dressed in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs. They then began to beg him to leave their region. Let's see here. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged him earnestly that he might remain with him. Jesus did not let him, but told him, "Go home to your own people and report to them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy upon you." So he went out and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and they were all amazed. So this is from Mark 5. So we're starting off the book saying, hey guys, this is real. This happened. It happened in the Bible. So if you believe in the Bible, you got to believe in demon possession and exorcism. And that's something that William Peter Blatty earnestly does believe in. Then, after this, he goes into another page before we start the prologue, where he has an excerpt from an FBI wiretap of Cosa Nostra telephone conversation relating the murder of William Jackson. So we have a few lines from these guys. James Torello. "Jackson was hung up on that meat hook. He was so heavy he bent it. He was on that thing 3 days before he croaked." Frank Buccieri, giggling, "Jackie, you should have seen the guy, like an elephant he was, and when Jimmy hit him with that electric prod. Torello, excitedly, "He was flopping around on that hook, Jackie. We tossed water on him to give the prod a better charge." and he screamin', ... So this is actually this is a wiretap from a real murder, a gangster murder. These gangsters thought this other gangster was a snitch, that he was working with the FBI. He wasn't. Who knows for sure? He wasn't, but they thought that he was. Or maybe he was just a rapist. I don't know. There's conflicting ideas of what was going on here. But this is one of the most brutal gangland murders ever. They had this man, they put him on a meat hook through his anus for 3 days and tortured him. It was awful. It took 3 days for him to die, and the whole time he had a meat hook up his ass. So it was pretty terrible. So then also, William Peter Blatty goes on to quote Dr. Tom Dooley. There's no other explanation for some of the things the communists did, like the priest who had 8 nails driven into his skull. And there were the 7 little boys and their teacher. They were praying the Our Father when soldiers came upon them. One soldier whipped out his bayonet and sliced off the teacher's tongue. The other took chopsticks and drove them into the ears of the 7 little boys. How do you treat cases like that? I looked into this. This may or may not have happened. Who knows for sure? We don't know for sure, but he was somebody who was very anti-communist in the 60s when the Vietnam War was going on. And so he was saying in Vietnam, when the communists were taking over, these were things that were happening. It may or may not have happened. Then, after that, he cites 3 different Auschwitz, Buchenwald, and Dachau, I don't know how to say it, Nazi concentration camps. So we go from, okay, demon possession is real. Then we go to the problem of evil. Okay, he puts these things in our minds, like people torturing people, people killing priests, putting chopsticks in little boys' ears, Nazi concentration camps. This is terrible, So he's bringing up the problem of evil right away before we get into the prologue. Now we get into the actual book. We go to northern Iraq on a dig into some Assyrian antiquities. There is a priest there named Father Marin, and he is possessed by a feeling of dread. He's freaking out. He's having a hard time. And I like that this one line that he had where he's thinking about the bones of man, the brittle remnants of cosmic torment that once made him wonder if matter was Lucifer, upward groping back to his God. Oof, thought that was cool. And I also loved in this chapter how he talks about loving his fellow man. He's a priest. He really tries to go around and just love everybody and feel love for his fellow man. And there's one guy at a restaurant. He's got some glaucoma issues. And he's like, long ago, it would have been hard for him to love this guy. But now he's kind of like transcended. He's able to like find love in his heart for this person. And then also another man that he's working with, he's able to love that man, no problem. But at one point, he looks down at this amulet of Pazuzu, this Babylonian Assyrian demon. He is the king of the demons of the wind. He is the personification of the southwest wind. And in the book, it's said that his dominion was sickness and disease. And the amulet that he was holding, his owner had worn it as a shield, evil against evil. So, and Pazuzu is a real demon. I mean, he's not a Christian demon. He's an Assyrian situation, but he was used by people to protect them against the very things that he brought, like famine, cicadas, like he is like, if you want to use this evil to protect you against other evil. There was this female demon that was his rival. She would go after like women and children during childbirth. So a lot of people would also invoke Pazuzu to help them against this other lady demon. So, yes. So here we go. Let's get into chapter 1. Oh, hold on. Well, there's the prologue. Hey, there's the prologue. I made fucking graphics for you guys. Here we go. It's a fucking prologue. But yeah, so he's feeling this southwest wind. Pazuzu has maybe somehow been loosed by this dig. Somehow Father Marin is involved. He understands that this entity is now loose in the world. Maybe because of his dig. It's kind of unsure. All right, so let's get into chapter 1. Chapter 1 is our setup. We're setting the scene. of the McNeil family. We have Chris McNeil along with her daughter Reagan. Chris is 32, Reagan is 11. She's getting ready to turn 12. She's got 2 helpers. She's got Willie and Carl. There's also Sharon, who's her tutor, who kind of watches after Reagan, and then also is her assistant. They are currently in Washington, D.C. because Chris is a movie star. She's one of America's sweethearts. She is filming at the Georgetown University with her director, Burke Dennings. And she, like I said, she's a beloved actress. She's a well-to-do, famous person. She seemingly has it all, okay? Chris McNeil is someone who, like I said, so many people, they wish to be like, oh, I wish I was a famous actress. Well, she is. She did it. But even though she seemingly kind of has it all, she is an atheist. She is a non-believer. Even though one time she saw a monk levitate in Bhutan. She was there. She was watching a monk meditating for hours and saw him levitate. But then she couldn't even, even though she saw it with her own eyes, she couldn't believe it. You know, she's such a non-believer that she can't even believe the things that she's actually seen. She denies this to herself. And the night that this book starts, there's a little scratching. There's a little scratch going, a little rapping going on. She's trying to find it. It's coming from above Reagan's room. It stops as soon as she goes in. It's really cold in there. That's also a thing. That's a paranormal thing. If you go into a room and it's cold for no reason, there's some weird shit going on there. So just be aware. Just be aware of that. Anyways, after she goes to kind of check up and see what's going on, she can't find where the scratching is coming from. She goes to bed. She has a nightmare. She has a nightmare about death. Okay, this woman is in her dreams. It's like she'd never even heard of death, and she was discovering it for the first time, and she's terrified. She's terrified. You know, Papa, please don't let us do this. She's feels herself slipping into nothingness. And she's awakened by a phone call from this nightmare. And I love how Blatty describes her as a core with no weight and her telephone ringing. You know, I feel like Pazuzu is kind of the telephone that's ringing, and she's a core with no weight. She's again is very accomplished in the material world, has made it in the material world, but is plagued by fear, this fear of death. You know, she feels she's empty. She's a core with no weight inside of her. She's also lost a child in her past, a son named Jamie at 3 years old, and her husband, who's also Reagan's father, Howard McNeil. I thought it was really sad in the book when she said she had sworn she would never give herself ever again as she had to Jamie or his father. So when she had her first child, she put all of her love and care into this baby. And then when he died, it was so heartbreaking for her that she had to build up a wall so that she would never feel that again, you know, which, I mean, it makes me think that she's withholding from Reagan. I mean, she's there, she's present, she loves her child, but she doesn't allow herself to love her fully like she did Jamie or Howard, the father, who ended up, they split up, they got a divorce. I thought it was also heartbreaking. There's a moment when they're at dinner and Howard, she sees Howard in Reagan's face. You know, she sees the father within the daughter, and she drops her glance. She can't even look at her daughter because she reminds her of Howard, and it's just so heartbreaking for her, you know, and it's like, oh, that's so fucking sad. And she's trying to distract Reagan from her missing father with clothes, you know, with shit, with material stuff. Like, the father is missing in this house. Like, God the Father is missing, and also Reagan's father is missing. There's no father energy here, okay? You kind of have Carl, but he's a cipher. So, you know, she goes to her job. She's filming her scene. She's troubled by death. She walks by JFK's church. He was a Catholic. And she tries to imagine him, who's like a man so embroiled in worldly affairs, like the president of the United States, you know, like at that in the 60s, like what an insane time to be president. She imagines him like battling the Russians, sending men to the moon, while also believing in the resurrection and life after everlasting, while also being a Catholic. And she just like can't square it, you know. She's just like having such a hard time. And she even speaks to Burke later. He comes over and they're having some drinks. And she speaks to him about her fears of death. And he's like, you live on through your work and your children, you know, like it's fine. It's a blessing. Don't worry about it. And she's like, I don't accept that. Like my child isn't me. I don't accept it. You know, she can't do it. Honestly, I'm with Burke. I think of death as a blessing. I think of it as a blessing. It's after God, it's just life is so fucking hard. You know, it's just like you get to go to bed. You finally get to go to bed at some point. And I think that's great. You know, I would not want to live forever. I have no aspirations to live forever. I don't understand people who want to live forever. But then again, too, I also kind of have my own beliefs which help me square with that. And I guess if you don't have any beliefs and you think that this is all there is and that's it and then it's done, you know, I can see how that would be really, really scary. Mercurius RX, sleep is practice for death. Yes, it is. It's very close to death. It's very close to death. Yeah, that's Thanatos from Psychoanalysis. Yes. Yeah, I know. They're the death urge. I feel the death urge. I don't know about y'all. I don't know about fucking y'all, but I fucking feel the death urge. I feel it all the time. You're just like, I just can't wait. I just can't wait to be done. I just can't wait to be done. You know, this is just like, oh, fuck. This is too much. This is too stressful. This is some shit, you know? This is some fucking shit. Anyways, so not only is she afraid of death, she, you know, doesn't believe anything. She doesn't even believe her eyes when she sees a monk meditate. She's condescending to Sharon, who's Reagan's tutor, her assistant, about her spiritual studies. Sharon has been trying some different things. She's trying to kind of figure it out. She's been trying some Buddhist chanting. She's been trying some transcendental meditation. She's trying to make space in her life for the sacred. And she can't with that either. However, it's interesting. She does allow for a Ouija board. She gets one of those because she's trying to contact her subconscious with no success. So it's like she does have an interest, but she's trying to do it through like a Ouija board, which like honestly, don't fuck with a Ouija board. Okay, I know that I'm fucking Mr. Tarot guy, like whatever. Like I don't think that the tarot's demonic. However, I do believe that the Ouija board is fucked up, and I don't fuck with those. Okay, I don't fuck with those because you don't know who you're talking to. All right? Whatever it identifies itself, whatever. You can't trust that bitch. You can't trust that bitch. It is a doorway. I do believe it is a doorway, and I don't think you should fuck with them. I personally had an experience when I was younger. I got a Ouija board because I was obviously have been interested in the occult for a long time. It's been a thing. I was probably in middle school, I think, when this happened. And I remember I had just seen Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon. I had just seen Stir of Echoes, and there was a part in Stir of Echoes where he's trying to contact, you know, the dead or something, and he's told how to do that, which is to close your eyes, clear your mind, think of yourself as in a theater with a blank screen. You know, like imagine yourself in a theater with a blank screen. Obviously, I'm a theater kid. I grew up at the movies, and so I was able to kind of do that. And I tried it. I was by myself. This was daylight. It was pure daylight. I was by myself. I had a board on my lap. I did the Kevin Bacon fucking Stir of Echoes shit. You know, I imagined nothing. You know, I had a blank screen. I don't even remember what I asked. I don't remember, but I remember the planchette moving. That little fucking thing moved, and it's not me, okay? Because it's just me. It's not like some other dickhead doing it, like, it's somebody else. No, that fucking thing moved on its own, and I was like, fuck this. I'm out. Never mind. I'm out. Like, I immediately was like, get out of here. I gave it to my friend Rebecca up the street. I was like, here, you want this? I don't even want it in my fucking house. Like, this sucks. Like, I immediately backed out of that shit. So, yeah, just stay away from those fucking things, all right? Stay away from, like, just, tarot's cool. Like, Ouija, not so fucking much. Not so fucking much. I also grew up in a weird fucking haunted house, too. It was like somebody killed themselves in that house. It was just like a negative vortex. I was just like, I don't want any part of this. I don't want any fucking part of this. But yeah, your pulse twitches your arm, and that moved it. No, it wasn't like that, Daiso. It wasn't like that. It was like Like, it wasn't like, oh, I would fucking know if I did it. Like, I would know if I did it or if I, like, no, it wasn't. It was, like, some shit, and I was like, fuck this, I'm out. Like, fuck this, I'm out. Like, bye. Like, get out of here. Anyways. So, since Reagan's alone, here's another thing. Okay, poor fucking Reagan, okay? She's from a divorced fucking family, which at that time wasn't the norm, you know? I mean, it was becoming more normalized throughout the 60s. But it still wasn't as normalized as it is today. Okay, it wasn't a thing, and so she's a child of divorce in the late 60s. Well, this book was published in 71, so let's just say it's the early 70s. She is alone a lot of the time. Her mom's she's got a working mom. Her mom's working. She's by herself. She doesn't have a sibling to hang out with. She's just got some adults around, you know. Sharon just lets her go down in the basement and do her thing. And so while she's down there, she finds the Ouija board and she starts playing with it because she's got nothing fucking better else to do. This is a poor, sad, lonely individual, okay? And she starts playing with it and she contacts someone who calls themselves Captain Howdy. Captain Howdy. That's, you know, it sounds cute, right? It sounds fun. Oh, that guy sounds like a good time. Wrong. He's a fucking demon. He's a fucking asshole. That's how they get you, man. They know about marketing. And she tries to show her mom, but Captain Howdy, like, won't show up. You know, he won't do it in front of the mom. Of course he won't. You know, he's not fucking trying to give himself away like that. And it's interesting because Chris thinks about how Reagan has been repressing her emotions. So not only, you know, is she alone all the time, there's no father presence, there's no religion in her household. She's also repressing her emotions. She never showed a reaction from her parents' divorce, which must have been excruciating. I mean, what kid doesn't have a reaction to their parents divorcing? Like, that's not good. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. And also, not only that, like, the father doesn't, like, contact her. He's not, like, involved. Like, he kind of doesn't seem to give a shit. And the father also, he was the one who wanted the divorce. His ego couldn't cope with having a famous wife. All right. That's a real thing. It's a real thing. You know, some guys, they got to be number one. And when your wife is fucking famous and you're not, that kind of grates on some dudes. But he wasn't man enough to just do the deed himself and ask for the divorce. He made Chris do his dirty work. I find a lot of men do that. They want out, but they're not going to do it. So it kind of they make the women do it. You know, it's kind of a fun little game. You know, it's a fun little game. So, and so now it is Reagan's 12th birthday. You know, she's hanging out with her mom. Her dad doesn't even fucking call her. Her dad doesn't even remember to call her daughter. She's also freaking out about people dying. She's like, Mom, why do people die? Why does God let us fucking get tired? Like, what the fuck? You know, and poor Chris, like, she doesn't have any good answers. I mean, she's freaking out about death herself. She really doesn't have any great things for her daughter, but she does tell her, well, after a while, God gets lonesome for us rags, and he wants us back. And by the way, also, I mean, she calls her daughter rags and also calls her stinky all the time, which I'm like, okay, so you're not giving your full heart to your daughter. You're keeping it to yourself because you're afraid because you got burned. There's no dad in the picture. He doesn't give a shit. You call her stinky and rags all the time, and she's left alone, and she's like a child of divorce in a time where that isn't common. You know, like, this is just kind of a perfect storm, you know, a perfect fucking storm for some demonic entities to get in. Thank you, Spicy Sweet Peach, for following. Appreciate that. So now let's go to chapter 2. All right, let's go to chapter 2. So now that we've met Chris McNeil, Reagan, and her crew, we're going to meet Father Damien Karras. Oh, Father Damien Karras. I love him. He's so fantastic. When we meet him, he is waiting at a subway platform. He's being besieged by a homeless man who smells and is disgusting. And he thinks to himself he could not bear to search for Christ again in stench and hollow eyes, for the Christ of pus and bleeding excrement. This is a man who has lost his faith. All right. I mean, he still gives the guy $1, his last dollar, in fact, his only dollar to get a cab. He ends up, he gives it to him anyways, even though he does not love this man. You know, like Father Marin talking about loving his fellow man. He does not have love in his heart for this man, but he still He does the deed, you know, he kind of goes through the motions. Yeah, this chapter was a big downer. It was. So we're setting up why he's lost his faith. And also when he gets to Fordham University, he almost forgets to write SJ beside his name when he's signing in. And SJ stands for Society of Jesus. So Jesuit priests, that's their designation. So within the Catholic Church, there is an arm of the priesthood known as the Jesuits, the Society of Jesus. And of their many pursuits, I mean, they're involved in a few different things, but of their many pursuits, they're most known for their work in education. So he's at Fordham University. That's a Jesuit-run school. Georgetown has a lot of Jesuit teachers going on. And yes, you're curious, RX, Jesuits are pretty interesting. They're really interesting. In fact, they're the most interesting part of Catholicism for me personally. I love the Jesuits of all the people within the Catholic Church. I'm the most interested in them because they're very progressive. You know, some people even label them as more liberal. They're very free thinking. They are into philosophy. They are into theology, the mysticism aspects of God. They explore the mysteries of God in the everyday. And one of their traditional values is called eloquentia perfecta. And according to the dean of Fordham in New York, Robert Grimes, eloquentia perfecta is composed of 3 characteristics: the right use of reason, to be able to express your thoughts into words, and to communicate gracefully. That is, do it in a way so that people are willing to listen to what you say. So these people are into communication, okay? Their rhetoric is another term for it, of how do you get people to listen to what you're saying? How do you get people to go along with what you're saying? How do you get your messages into somebody? So that is is their deal. And in fact, the Bene Gesserits from Dune are based off of the Jesuit priesthood. Fun fact. Got to bring it back to Dune. We got to bring it back to Dune a little bit. You know how it is. But also, the Bene Gesserit are known for training and educating young women. So that's their whole thing. And that's how you get into people's minds. Okay? So the Jesuits, they're trying to get in through the back door. They're trying to put their ideas in people's brains through education, which is smart. Yeah, full circle, guys. It's full circle. You know, it's all about education. What do you think I'm doing right now? I'm a educator in the wild. All right, Father Dan here educating y'all in the wild. So I'm putting my little ideas in there. You thought you came here. You're like, I'm gonna read a scary book. Surprise, the Lord's Prayer. I'm gonna teach you about it. You're like, this is not what I came here for. It's like, too bad. That's what we're doing today. Too bad. So Karras, he is in town. Damien Karras is in town as a principal speaker at a meeting at the American Psychiatric Association. He is speaking about the psychological aspects of spiritual development. He is a psychiatrist. He was trained. He went into the Jesuit priesthood, and they were like, hey, you've got an aptitude for this. We're going to pay for your college, but you have to, use your talents in service of the Jesuit priesthood. And so he does. He sees other priests who are having issues, and he's kind of like the resident psychiatrist for everybody. So, yeah, the old bait and switch, John Connolly. You know about it. And so he, after his meeting, he goes to visit his mother. She's living in this New York apartment that's akin to a hovel. She's living in poverty. He feels terrible. He feels so bad because his mom, she's elderly. She's all alone. She's in this apartment. She just listens to a radio all day because she can't read or write English. So that's kind of all she has is the radio. And he feels so bad. He's like, I need to get closer to her. This is a bad situation. I feel really fucking guilty about leaving her alone all day. This is shitty. He feels so bad about it that he's even spoken to people about getting out of the psychiatry biz and getting into teaching instead, and getting moved up to New York so that he can be closer to her, so that he can keep an eye on her. He's even told them, like, look, like, I've lost my faith, okay? Like, I'm not fit to do what I'm doing. They're like, shut up, you're doing it. We don't give a shit. You're the best we got, dude. You're the best we got. And he's like, but I've lost my faith. Like, please, I just want to, like, look after my fucking mom. Like, this shit sucks. He knew that his answers would have sounded insane if somebody questioned him about why he has lost his faith. The need to rend food with the teeth and then defecate, that bothers him. My mother's 9 First Fridays, I don't know what that means. Stinking socks, that bothers him. Thalidomide babies, that bothers him. An item in the paper about a young altar boy who's waiting at a bus stop set on by strangers sprayed with kerosene and ignited, that bothers him. By the way, thalidomide babies are... There was this drug, thalidomide, and it was a tranquilizer. It would help people go to sleep. But it was given to women who were pregnant when they were having their, getting their morning sickness and stuff, to help them deal with their morning sickness. And lo and behold, this drug caused massive birth defects, like really bad birth defects, like babies that don't have arms, and like really like twisted, like fucked up legs and arms. A lot of it was fucked up legs and arms. Okay. So these women, they got prescribed this fucking medicine, and this medicine fucked up their unborn children. And all these fucking babies were born who were like, a lot of them didn't survive. Some of them did. But that was a scandal. So, I mean, just keep that in mind, by the way, when, everyone's so hard up for fucking new medications, all right? Like, just like fucking people, this has been bad before, okay? Like, I don't particularly trust Western medicine 100%, like, they got some things under control, but, people are just like, oh, I'll take a brand new vaccine that was just made. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm gonna let you guys try it first before I fucking put that in my body, okay? Like, this has happened before, this will happen again, all right? This will happen again. So anyways, so then he goes, no, these are too emotional. These are vague, existential. More rooted in logic was the silence of God. So if somebody was questioning him, he'd have to say the silence of God is why he's lost his faith. In the world, there was evil, and much of it resulted from doubt, from an honest confusion among men of goodwill. Would a reasonable God refuse to end it? Not finally reveal himself? Not speak? Lord, give us a sign. So that's Karras's problem. He is the silence of God. He's like, this world is shitty. If you gave us a sign, we would know you're there, and then it would make things so much better. It would just make everything so much better. Like, Lord, give us a sign. He thinks to himself how he wishes he could be in Jesus's presence. He wishes he could go back in time and be amongst his followers, because he needs a sign. This man, he's lost his faith. His priest has lost his faith. So there we go. There's our hero of our novel. We've got a mother who's an atheist and a priest who's lost his faith, starting out this novel. Chapter 3. So things are going kind of bad with Reagan. She's been acting up. She's been fucking up in math, her schoolwork. She's been lying, moving furniture. The wrappings the little tapping keeps happening. There's items being lost, like a dress, Chris calls her LA doctor for a referral to a local psychiatrist. She goes, hey, guy, I need a referral. And he's like, well, we need to check the body before we do that. We just need to make sure that, like, there's nothing physically going on before we start doing, like, the mental shit, right? So she's like, okay. She's kind of wary of doctors because guess what? They killed her son when they prescribed him a new broad-spectrum antibiotic for a lingering infection. So she's been bitten, like they're like, oh, your baby's got this infection here. Here, give your 3-year-old this fucking drug, and then it fucking killed him. It's just like, it wasn't good to go. So she's really not trusting at this point of most people. So she's just like, I don't know. This is kind of, oh God, can you just give me like a psychiatrist? I don't want to fucking, I'm not down for medications, like, oh fuck. But she goes along with it. They go and see an internist, and the doctor diagnoses Reagan with hyperkinetic behavioral disorder, which is the early name for ADHD. Today we call it ADHD. And he prescribes Ritalin for her overcompensation and overreaction to depression. And at this time, this was kind of a new-ish diagnosis. This had started to kind of be Ritalin had started to be prescribed at like throughout the 60s a little bit for kids. That's when it kind of started. So it was kind of newish. Quinn's idea is Ritalin fucked me up as a kid. Yeah, I feel like it might be a little bit like most medications. I feel like it's probably a bit overprescribed. I'm sure there are some people who genuinely benefit from it. I'm sure there's a percentage, but I feel like most medications are overprescribed, and some people probably don't need it. And it's really interesting to me too, because it's like, okay, so we look at Reagan, right? And it's like, why not the psychiatrist? Because like, obviously she's having a hard time. Like her dad, like she's a child of divorce. Her dad's not present. She's alone by herself all the time. She didn't even have a reaction to her parents' fucking divorce. Like why? Like, and I don't know. This is the problem that I have with Western medicine, is that there is a real divorce between the physical body and the emotional state. And I feel like they're very linked, at least in me and in my experiences with my own body and my own chronic illnesses that I've struggled with in my life. There has always been an emotional link. And once I worked on the emotional aspect of it, the physical symptoms seemed to go away. I used to have some fucking back pain. Ooh, back pain for years. Lower back pain. And a friend of mine was like, hey, you should read this book, Healing Back Pain by Dr. Sarno. And I did. And I cried a lot because it was me. That book is all about how a lot of back pain is psychosomatic. You're just really pissed about some shit. You're just angry. You're angry about some shit. And to protect, your psyche is protecting itself from dealing with this anger. And so it creates this injury for you to focus on so that you don't deal with your emotional pain. And where your back pain manifests is also indicative of what kind of emotional pain you're dealing with. For me, it was lower back pain. Lower back pain is indicative of feeling unsupported, which I did feel very unsupported in my life. And so once I kind of dealt with those feelings and faced those demons, back pain went away. What do you know? Eczema. I remember I had eczema for a long time. This guy was like, when did you start getting eczema? I was like, 7th grade. He's like, what was going on in 7th grade? I was like, my parents were having a custody battle. It started and it was terrible. And it's like, oh, yeah, I had a skin rash. I was manifesting an itchy rash because my environment was itchy to me. Everything was, it was not good. It was not good. So, yeah, I also exorcised my eczema. Supposedly it's incurable. Cured it with homeopathy. You can talk shit about other alternative medicines all you want. And maybe it is a placebo. I don't fucking know. But what I do know is that it worked. And the eczema went away. It went away. It went away. All right, so let's get back to it. So also, while Reagan is getting examined, apparently she tells the doctor to keep his fingers away from her goddamn cunt. And Chris is like, what? She said what? Like, maybe she got this from Burke, because Burke is always talking about cunting this, cunting that. I love using like cunting, like I never thought to use cunt as a verb. I was like, wow, like just the British, they're so crazy. But yeah, she's like, what the fuck? Reagan's never cursed. I've never heard her curse once. So there's definitely some real weird shit going on. Later, Chris chides Sharon for speaking with Reagan about religion. Also, she's dealing with a little bit of money issues. She had a couple of investments that kind of went through, and she's got a lot of expenses at this time, and so her money's a little bit tight. Even though she makes a lot of money, it just goes right out the window. And she's also planning a party. She's going to plan a little dinner party Burke Dennings is going to be there, the second unit director, a senator and his wife, an Apollo astronaut and his wife, 2 Jesuits from Georgetown University, next door neighbors, Mary Jo Perrin, who's a psychic, and Ellen Cleary, a State Department secretary who used to work at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. So we're getting ready for a party in Chapter 4. Here we go. Oh my God. There's a curry bar. Sounds fantastic. I love also the type of people that she invited. That is a very eclectic mix. You know, when you're creating a guest list for a party, it is important to have an eclectic group of people who would be an interesting mix together. I think it's a lost art. It's a lost art. So they're hanging out. Everybody's getting drunk. Everybody's having a great time. Party is amazing. Everyone loves the curry. Chris tells about the time that she saw someone levitate in Bhutan. She brings it up. And the Jesuit replies, well, the Jesuit dean, not Father Dyer, but the other guy, who knows what gravity is, or matter when it comes to that, you know? So this Jesuit's like, hey, maybe he did levitate. Who the fuck knows what gravity is? Because, by the way, spoilers, we don't know what gravity is. We don't know. We can see its effects, but we don't know. It's pretty fucking mysterious, all right? Gravity is a very mysterious force in our universe, which is something that's I've always thought is really, really interesting. She asks about Karras, Damien Karras. She's like, who's this priest that looks like a boxer? What's his deal? And he says that his mother has passed away. His mom died. Was dead in the apartment for days before anyone found her. The only reason anyone found her is because the neighbors were complaining that the radio was on. And I remember Karras, when he leaves, he just left the fucking radio on, It's just like, oh no, oh no. So Karras's nightmare has come to pass. His mother did die all alone and was just rotting in her apartment for days. She also learns that he is a psychiatrist. And also Reagan comes out. She meets everybody before she's put to bed, but she's rude to the psychic. There's a psychic there, Mary Jo. She's like, don't touch me, and Mary Jo's kind of weirded out by her too. The psychic can pick up on some weird presences that are going on with Reagan. And so later they're talking to Father Dyer about Black Mass. So they're like, what is this Black Mass? What is this? He's like, well, Karras is actually more the expert on this sort of shit, but it's, a desecration. It's just like an inverse mass where everything's terrible, And in fact, recently, there was some desecration at the church. There was a mound of poop on the altar cloth right across from the tabernacle. Somebody shit on the altar cloth, and a massive phallus sculpted in clay glued onto a statue of Christ. Keep in mind, Reagan is a little clay artist and makes little clay things, which is kind of an interesting little thing if you think about it. And so they're kind of talking about it. And Black Mass, it is just this is something that people said was going on, but they were tortured, and they said this under duress. But it's like, you take the Catholic Mass and then you just turn it on its head, and then you just make it into a fucked up orgy, and it's just like everything. They just make it gross. You just take church and you make it gross and awful. Yeah, it's a parody. Yes, it's a parody, a blasphemous parody about a Catholic Mass. So I don't know. I wouldn't say it was Saturnalia gold chain him, but Saturnalia came before Catholic Mass, so I don't know if I would say that. But anyways, so they're talking about this Black Mass shit. Reagan comes downstairs. She was asleep. She comes downstairs. She pees on the carpet in front of everybody. So now the demon's making her embarrass herself in front of all these fucking adults and do humiliating things like pissing on the carpet in front of a bunch of fucking strangers. And then she tells the astronaut when she's peeing, she looks at him and she says, "You're gonna die up there." I love that. She tells this fucking astronaut, "You're gonna die up there." Reagan tells this astronaut while peeing on the carpet, "You're gonna die up there." And this astronaut, in fact, later on in the book, The Ninth Configuration, also by William Peter Blatty, he's getting ready to go to the moon during the countdown, has a mental breakdown, freaks the fuck out, can't go to the moon, because this demon told him he was going to die up there, and he was so fucking freaked out that he can't do it. He has a mental breakdown and is sent to an insane asylum with a bunch of other army guys or other military guys who are kind of going a little bonkers. And there's a big thing of like, why are they all crazy? And that the book kind of goes into all that stuff. So this is foreshadowing for another book. This character pops up in the 9th configuration, which I really enjoyed that book. It also kind of talks about like the problem of like evil and stuff like that. Right. Okay. So, you know, the party's kind of fucked up now, whatever. Everybody, it goes on for like, they put her back to bed, you know, and then the party goes on for a minute, but then everybody starts leaving. And Mary Jo, the psychic, Chris asks her on her way out about the Ouija board. And she's like, hey, like, should I, like, what's the deal? Like, she's playing with this Ouija board. And she's like, I would take it away from her. Like, take it away from her. I would take it away from her. She goes on to say, many people associate me with spiritualism, but that's wrong. Oh, yes, I think I have a gift, but it isn't a cult. I believe that we all have a foot in two worlds. The one that we are conscious of is in time. But now and then, a freak like me gets a flash from the other foot. The other one, I think, is in eternity, where time does not exist, and so the future and past are both the present. So now and again, when I'm feeling a tingling in that other foot, I believe that I'm seeing the future, though who knows. But the occult is something different. I've stayed away from that. I think dabbling with that can be dangerous, and that includes fooling around with a Ouija board. They seem to be pointing to the opening of a door of some sort, the bridge between two worlds. She also tells Chris, so she's like, don't fuck around with that. Take it away from your daughter. And also, Chris is like, well, maybe my house is haunted. And she's like, your house isn't haunted. Bitch, your house isn't haunted. I've been here before. This is a nice house. My friend used to live here. It's not the house. Okay, so we've just now, it's not the house. It's not the fucking house. And so she leaves. And then now they're cleaning up the carpet, getting ready to go to bed, and Chris hears a commotion, and she goes to her daughter's bedroom, opens the door, and what does she see? Reagan on the bed fucking shaking everywhere. She wasn't lying. She was not lying about the bed shaking. Chris thinks she's been fucking lying about this bed shaking. It's shaking, all right? It's fucking shaking. It's on now, okay? So now we have confirmed that this is more than just some psychosomatic, like whatever the fuck, ADHD shit, like there's a fucking bed and it's moving and shit's just gotten real. And so that is the end of our first session. Beans is very insistent that I feed her. For our next session next Sunday, you need to read the second part 2, called The Edge. There are 6 chapters, so read chapter 1 through 6 in part 2, The Edge of this book. Okay? All right. Yeah. So this was our first Exorcist Club with Father Dan. Thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to feed this fucking bean cat. Then we're going to come back. We're going to take some questions. We're just going to talk. We're just going to shoot the shit. You know, it's going to be fucking sick. So I will be right back. 19 Academy thanks these lovely people for all their generosity and support on patreon.com/DanicaXIX. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, ring the bell, and tell your friends. You can join me live on twitch.tv/DanicaXIX and follow me on Twitter and Instagram @DanicaXIX. Support for 19 Academy comes from viewers like you on patreon.com/DanicaXIX.